So I woke up this morning, Memorial Day, May 31st, 2021. And I'm reading the news, financial, and this is what I usually do. I wake up and I start reading financial news. I start reading stock information. I usually check my portfolios one by one. And this is what I do in the morning, basically, as soon as I wake up, you know? So the story here, and I basically read through like five different articles, but I figured I'd start with this one. So the story here is, how long is the red hot housing market expected to last? Now, before I even show you the key points of this article, simultaneously, I was having a conversation on Discord, which I'll probably get to later when he gives me a reply, because the person I'm talking to believes that this housing crisis right now is similar to 2008. To which I reply, no, it's not. It's not the same as 2008. The difference in 2008 was basically that the banks couldn't lend because the banks had run into a liquidity problem that they themselves basically caused. Here we go. It says the flaw in that argument is thinking that corporations last forever. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. So anyway, the issue was that the credit windows were closed, and even though the banks were being given money by the government, the banks weren't lending out that money at all. They started re-lending money later on, but the thing about it is the housing market had grown a huge bubble to which caused the housing prices to grow and grow and grow, which is funny because this was when I had bought my first house. The woman who I got it from wanted like $530,000. Now, mind you, this house, which was in Queens, was only worth, I would say, less than $200,000. Um, on that block, my grandparents purchased their house, I think, for less than $100,000. But of course, that was a long time ago. That was like 80 years ago or something. And the thing about it is, those houses in general aren't really worth more than $150,000. However, what I will say is, because New York City has only so much space, and because of the proximity to the city, where you could easily get on mass transit and get in and out of Manhattan and whatnot, back and forth home in less than an hour, that's what made the real estate values in that area specifically sky high. So what people have been doing basically, and I shouldn't say people, what these foreign money conglomerates coming from the West Indies, Asia, they've been buying up the single family houses that were in that area, and they've been turning them into multi-family houses. So this is basically like destroyed the beauty of that area, which is what caused me to move out to Long Island. Even though I didn't sell the original, it's like this caused me to move out to Long Island. But long story short, the woman wanted like 530 for it, but because of the crash, she ended up selling it for 250, which was really closer to what it should have been in the first place. Now, 2008 was completely different than right now. The difference is, this time there is no problem with the banks. The banks are doing fine. The banks have everybody locked into credit. They've got everybody locked into leases on vehicles. The banks are doing just fine. They're collecting their fees. They're collecting everything, no problem. They've got these people on rent and mortgage moratoriums. Oh yeah, you can bet that they're coming after you later as soon as the moratoriums are lifted. But the banks right now aren't having a problem. Their stock prices are doing just fine. Everything's doing just fine in the banking industry. There's also the story that I've already showed you. Corporations and foreign money are buying up houses. In fact, I believe the number was like corporations are buying like 5 out of every 10 houses now. And when we're talking about corporations, we're talking about these big banks, we're talking about like Amazon, we're talking about these big corporations where they can literally go into an area and they can just buy everything up, and then they can make their own, what do they call it, a corporate village. Now, this story talks about, and this was on the Ascent, this story talks about the multiple pronged hit that happened that caused the real estate market to be where it is right now. So they says, yes, I've spent months trying to predict the future. I'm wildly curious about what might happen with the housing market, and it seems I'm not alone. When is the housing market going to crash? See, the problem is people think that the housing market's going to crash. They assume that just because values keep getting higher and higher, that must mean that there's a bubble growing that's going to bust. Here's the problem. This is what they don't seem to understand, though. These houses aren't being purchased by subprime borrowers. These houses right now are being purchased by corporations and foreign money. Now, understand what I mean when I say foreign money. I have an aunt right now who lives in Brooklyn, and she has a brownstone. Now, when she bought this place, it was less than $165,000. She bought it like maybe 30 years ago or something. And okay, probably, yeah, about give or take 25 years. She's been in there for a while, so figure at least 25 years. So anyway, when she bought this place, Brooklyn hadn't started being gentrified yet. They were basically allowing Brooklyn to break down so that they could get ready to gentrify it. But she bought it right before Brooklyn even was considered for gentrification. Now, she got the place for less than $165,000. If she appraises it right now, it's easily worth over $2 million. Just to let you understand what that block is like, she rents her apartment for about $2,500 a month. The real estate people told her that she's actually undercutting the market because she could be getting $3,500. She could be getting an extra $1,000 to rent a goddamn basement that doesn't even have a washer and a dryer in it. And when you think along those lines, that these people are really willing to spend $3,500 or even $3,000 for a goddamn basement. My second house cost me what? $2,000 a month with taxes and insurance. And these people are willing to spend $3,000 a month for a goddamn basement? That's crazy to me. But again, the reason why this isn't the same type of bubble is because these people are not subprime borrowers. The people who are buying houses right now are prime borrowers or corporations or foreign money. And when I talk about foreign money, what I'm saying is there are Chinese, there are Indian, there are West Indian, there are investors, Russian, there are investors who can literally walk to your house with a bag of cash and say, we're going to buy this house from you cash money. No loans, no bank deals, nothing. These people are sitting on all of this cash money, and they are buying houses sight unseen, which means that they don't even need to see your property. They already know just based on where it is. They'll buy it, they'll renovate it, and either they'll use it themselves or they'll rent it out. And they have more money than you can imagine. They are conglomerates. They have enough. They can get money. If your bid, and a lot of these properties, some people are seeing it now in parts of America nobody gave a fuck about, like Gary, Indiana, and Chicago and Atlanta. And the thing about it is, these people are bidding these properties up and buying these properties and making it so regular average homeowners can't buy them because they in no way can meet these bids. So what you're seeing right now, these are not subprime borrowers who have created a bubble. That's not what you're seeing. What you're seeing are conglomerates and corporations and foreign money, and they're buying up everything. So we were in a perfect storm. They run down the reasons why the housing market is so high. They talk about the fact that we have COVID-19. COVID-19 kept people in their houses for the first time in a lifetime, kept people in their houses, made people really look around and say, you know what? My house is not big enough. I need a home office. My kids need a room for class activities because I got to teach these kids at home. And the thing about it is you couldn't even go to church. So there were some people who may have converted part of their house into an altar or something in order to pray. So another issue was businesses, they were shuttered. So a lot of people had to work at home while dealing with their kids at home. And then on top of that, what does it say? Due to the pandemic, businesses got shuttered. Millions of Americans lost their job. So this, again, the moratoriums are going to be ended eventually. The banks are coming looking for that money. I am thankful to God, whether you believe in God or not, I really don't care, but I'm thankful to God that during this entire past 2 years, I didn't lose a dime of money. In fact, I made more money than I've ever made previously because of the stock market opportunities, and I'm very, very thankful for that. So I'm just going to say that. So if you don't believe in God, that's your, hey, listen, whatever. I don't care. But I'm just saying, I'm very thankful. Um, what is this? At the same time, there were far more home buyers than inventory. Yeah, the reason why there were so many home buyers is because you had a lot of people who wanted to flee the large cities and the congestion, and then they wanted to move out and look for houses. So now, in addition to all the conglomerates, corporations, and foreign money, you got a lot of people who are looking for houses. And even though the thought of paying higher taxes was a barrier in many cases to many people. Once people saw that the outskirts away from the city offered so much more when it came to freedom, I think that's what ultimately tipped their hand and said, you know what, I want to move out, I want to do it now. A lot of people left those high cost apartments and they moved out of the city. The high price and relative scarcity of building materials. Now, this is something I've been arguing has been caused by the Federal Reserve keeping interest rates low, and on top of that, printing out welfare checks. Lumber has skyrocketed in price, copper skyrocketed in price, building materials in general skyrocketed in price. So the cost of building a home has gone up. They are saying about $26,000. It's most likely higher than that, but I will say this, if you do build a home now, you do have access. It's just like I showed you my mother's kitchen. Despite the fact that we built it up during the pandemic, and not only that, a bathroom too, but despite the fact we built it during the pandemic and the cost of materials went up and the availability of materials was reduced and you had to wait longer for stuff to actually get to the store, what I will say is if you build a home now, the quality of the materials in many cases has gone up. Like if you put these new light bulbs and switches and wiring in, the quality of those things pretty much has gone up. It's like you can put electric switches that have USB ports. You can wire in televisions through the wall, and you can install stuff directly into the wall. You can do things now that you couldn't have done 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So we're having multiple issues. And they're saying one of the things to look for about whether or not the bubble is going to crash, some people believe that the Federal Reserve is going to be forced to raise interest rates. My thing is, we've been in quantitative easing since 2008. We've been in quantitative easing since the Bush administration basically crashed their economy, because that's when it crashed. That's when Obama took over. We continued quantitative easing through Obama. Then you got the Trump administration. It seemed like they were going to pull back quantitative easing, but then even when they raised rates, they were forced to lower them again. So my belief is at this point, especially when we're closing in on $30 trillion worth of national debt, I believe that we've reached quantitative easing infinity. They're not going to ever be able to raise rates again. If they do raise rates, they'll only do it as a political ploy, and then they'll be forced to lower rates again. But the important thing to remember, and this is why I was arguing with this person, let's see, he says, okay, in his argument, he says, only if you don't, well, I said, you don't understand the situation. Generation Z and Generation Alpha, these are the kids that are coming after me. I'm 39 years old right now, and I'm about to turn 40. The kids that are coming after me are fucked. They're going to be underemployed. Many of them are going to be unemployed. They can't afford anything. They damn sure ain't going to be able to afford a mortgage. And the issue is, there's nobody to replace the dying baby boomers. There's nobody to replace the dying millennials, because these kids aren't going to make enough money, and they're not going to be able to hold a job giving them enough to allow them to pay a mortgage on average. The most of them just aren't there, and they're not going to ever be there. So unless their parents buy a property or have bought a property and pay it off and then leave it to them, only relying on them to pay taxes and to pay upkeep, There's no way in hell they'll ever be able to afford a house. Not to mention, a lot of these kids are growing up without responsibility. They can't mow a lawn. They can't maintain anything in a house. They don't have the money to get somebody to fix it for them. So my argument is, basically, even if you leave them properties, a lot of them are going to end up losing those properties. And I've seen that happen because I've had friends of my generation whose parents have left them homes only to watch the homes be repossessed or purchased because they couldn't afford to pay the taxes on them, or they couldn't afford to pay whatever mortgage was left on them. Because a lot of old people, they do reverse mortgages and stuff so they can sustain themselves in the end years of their life. So the issue ultimately comes down to, I don't believe that this is the same as last time. He says the flaw in that argument is thinking that corporations last forever. See, what you're thinking is the fact that a corporation is just a business. That's not what you're dealing with. You're dealing with these corporations or these conglomerates or this foreign money, and they just purchased a bunch of houses with less than a 3% interest rate. Those less than 3% interest rate mortgages are beating the price of inflation. They're never going to sell those properties. Anybody who buys a house right now and they had investor money behind them or venture capital, they're never going to sell those houses. They'll keep those houses forever because they're beating the price of inflation for at least 30 years if they took out the mortgage for that long. Because you got to remember, 15-year mortgages were less than 3% too. A 15-year mortgage is like a 2.15 in general. They're beating the cost of inflation. They'll never sell those houses. There's no point. They don't need to. They have the money. So my thing is, again, and I brought this up last time, the stories are right there for you. Corporations are buying up houses. And they say corporations are buying up houses and robbing families of the American dream. So I'm not making this shit up. They're doing this. They are doing this. And the prices on these houses because like you used to be able to look around in New York State and you used to be able to find easily houses that were up near the Great Lakes or houses that were way up north. And these houses cost less than $100,000. And they actually were bigger than anything you could find here in the city. Now, the values of those places are going up. And a lot of people who don't mind the cold weather, they're trying to retire and they're trying to sell their properties and they're trying to get the highest amount of money they can get. And they're trying to retire in either the warm areas of Florida or they're trying to retire in quiet countryside areas in other states like Ohio and North Dakota and South Dakota and upstate New York, or they're moving, a lot of them who want the warmth, they moved to Texas. So we're sending a lot of New York liberals to Texas, to South Carolina, to North Carolina. And the thing about it is down there, they're still building all these new properties. And our New York money is worth so much at this point, or our New York pensions are worth so much that we can go to any of these states and we could snatch up a house. Like, for instance, my pension alone, if I wanted to, I could go to South Dakota and North Dakota. I could get 2 houses and live in either one because my New York City pension is just so damn big. And I've also heard, it's funny because I listen to Patriot XM and now they've figured out what's going on. They're like, hey, stop building houses because these New York liberals are coming down there and buying them up. It's like, yeah, it's too late, pal. I'll see you at the barbecue. It's too late. But this is what's going on right now. This is the real news. I'm not talking about some bullshit, people arguing on the internet. It's all boring to me. This is the real news. This is what's going on right now. This is what you should be paying attention to. So, aside from real estate, cryptocurrency hasn't returned yet. So there was a story this morning, AMC versus Dogecoin, which is the bigger pump and dump scheme. I love using the term pump and dump. I've been using it since the very beginning when I heard what Redditors were doing, because I knew that's exactly what it was. I knew that these guys were idiots and that somebody was tricking them and goading them into taking their money and helping to fuel a pump and dump so that they could sell out before everybody else. And that's basically exactly what happened. When you look at the actual values of the Reddit stocks, GameStop is at $222, but unfortunately, so many of these morons bought in after $300. They had pushed the price up to $483. You still had people put money in, and guess what? They ain't never seeing that $483 again. So you add that to the fact that Robinhood picks the most opportune times to crash, and you had a lot of people who bought in who couldn't even sell to save their life. They couldn't sell at all. Then there's AMC. I got a lot of people constantly asking me about AMC. AMC right now is $26. It was at $36 as a high. And I keep telling people, I'm like, yo, stay away from that shit. By the way, let me also remind you, while I warned you against Airbnb, even when Airbnb was at its highest, I was like, don't buy Airbnb. I told y'all to buy into Roblox. Roblox, when I told you to buy into it, they had just launched that IPO. Now it's up to $93 from $60. So that was a $33. You're up right now. I also told you to buy Petco. I told you to buy Wolf, Roblox, and I will say this. I had high hopes for Coin, but then I realized Coin was basically a scheme. Just like the rest of this cryptocurrency bullshit. That's why I'm not betting on cryptocurrency anymore. What I'll do is I'll mine my own coin like I've been doing and then use Coinbase to convert from one coin to another. I'm not spending my own money in this bullshit. But anyway, AMD, or I should say AMC versus Dogecoin, which is the bigger pump and dump. So they go and list a couple of reasons why you shouldn't be buying AMC. First of all, there's been a decline in movie ticket prices over the last 19 years. A more than doubling in its net interest payments on corporate borrowings in the first quarter. AMC has virtually no chance of paying back its debt. And then there's deferred rent obligations of $473 million because, after all of these movie theaters have been closed all this time. So when I'm talking about these moratoriums that are coming to an end, yeah, AMC, I guess you're part of that, huh? So the thing about it is they already know Dogecoin's bullshit, too. Oh, well, we're going to go to the moon. Someday we're going to get to the moon. We're going to Mars. We're going to Phobos. We're going to Deimos. You ain't going a goddamn place except the bankruptcy line. But anyway, what does it say? The problem is that there's nothing tangible. Oh, no shit. It's something I've been saying forever. As an example, proponents of Dogecoin like to talk up its increased adoption. But they'll fail to mention that its 50,000 transactions handled daily don't even move the needle next to the 700 million payments processed by Visa or MasterCard. By the way, I bought into Visa and MasterCard stocks simply because they're dividend payers. Not only that, it's Visa and MasterCard. I trust them. They've been around probably longer than I have. Let's see. What's more is Dogecoin supporters talk up its lower transaction fees but leave out some other important details. For instance, that Dogecoin's transaction fees are generally higher than the likes of Stellar, Lumens, Nano, Ripple, Dash, Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin, XP. So, bottom line is this. Dogecoin is bullshit. We knew it was a pump and dump scheme. Dodge Day came and went. You never saw $1. You couldn't even get the shit to $1. Elon Musk, they had pump. What was it? They had Elon Musk pumps on YouTube, thinking that when the guy came on to Saturday Night Live, he was going to pump it to $1. How'd that go? That was just another failure in a list of failures, and it's so sad. You know what? There was so many people who were what is it? Dogecoin fucking gurus of Dogecoin. There were so many XRP gurus. XRP was at $3 or something like 2-3 years ago. Hasn't gotten anywhere near it. And then within the last 2 weeks, the price crashed, to 88 cents? All these gurus everywhere. And all of a sudden, they all go quiet at the same time. And then I'm looking at Safemoon right now. Now, if you spend $100 in Safemoon, if you get into this Ponzi scheme, yeah, you can get, You can get like 11 million coins right now because it's 0.000004. Or I should say you can get 11 million plus tokens. You could probably get about 12 million tokens right now. But when you look at the actual the statements behind this bullshit, These people literally say that they're trying to finance a safe trip to the moon. And hence the word Safemoon. And I thought, I was like, wait a minute, this is the biggest fucking scam I've ever seen. So the question to me is, when is the SEC going to get involved and put the kibosh on this bullshit? But my thing is, they're not going to do that until after Biden's welfare checks get consumed by all of the speculators who are trying to get rich quick. So what they do is they find a couple of people to make these news stories about, because the news has been very bullish on this shit. So they'll find one or two people who paid off their student loans using Dogecoin or using Litecoin or something, or Safemoon. They'll find one or two people who benefited from being in the Ponzi scheme early, and they'll parade them around as reasons why you should invest. Or they'll show you the one or two people who took that money and wasted it on a Lamborghini or a Bentley or whatever. And they'll parade those people around trying to get the rest of you mental slaves to invest in this shit. Meanwhile, you're watching your money evaporate. You're watching these numbers go from 70 cents to 30 cents, from $1 to 88 cents. This is what you're watching. You're watching your money disappear. And then you have the enthusiastic, oh yeah, well, it's just a sale. It's a sale, so I'm going to buy more. I'm going to go buy more because it's a sale right now. It's a sale. Uh-huh. Right, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you'll eventually get your Lamborghini about 100 years from now. Or as soon as the IRS steps in and says, fuck this shit. You're not going to no goddamn moon. What are you talking about? NASA, they should get NASA to come out and just tell you up front. It's like, listen, guys, you're not going to no freaking moon. What are you talking about? You're not going to no moon. Half of you have health problems so bad that you'd never last a trip to the moon, even if they put you in a shuttle right now and tried to launch you into space. Most of you would die. You'd die before you made it to space, most of you. So it's like, guys, you ain't going. You ain't going to goddamn moon. What are y'all talking about? What are you talking about? I don't know. I don't know. The hysteria is it's just too much for me. It's just too much for me. What I also should say today in my current events, China has just recently allowed a reduction, or they've decided to get rid of the one-child policy. They haven't had that in a while, actually, but now they're telling people you should have like 3 children. So y'all should do more fucking. Why? Well, because they found out, well, first of all, the big problem that they had is that the females were outnumbered by the males. So that caused a lot of Chinese males to not be able to get wives, or at least not the wives that they wanted. So now a lot of Chinese men have to go to Southeast Asia, or they have to go to other countries trying to find wives. So because they created a gender imbalance. So that was one problem. In parts of Upper Mongolia and parts of the areas around China, women were getting kidnapped and married. They were getting kidnapped and forced into marriage. So the Chinese government had to crack down on that shit. And unlike these bullshit American laws here, when the Chinese crack down, they fucking execute people. So this whole nonsense that we're having, where we got slashings in the subway and we get women getting shot and all this by road rage and shit, when the Chinese government get their hands on you, that's a bullet in the back of the head. And the thing about it is that what do? They take you out to a field and they tell you, excuse me, could you please open your mouth because we don't want these bullets ricocheting when we shoot you in the back of the head. And boom, blow your head off, and they bury your body or whatever. I think they harvest your organs too. That's how they handle it. And guess what? They don't have any recurrence of crime from these people. The what is it called? The recidivism rate is like 0% because you're dead. And yeah, that's just a little bit of Chinese justice over there. So while you're trying to buy more guns because you're scared of your neighbor and you're scared you're going to get somebody break into your house, just remember the Chinese government, you don't need guns over there, because when the government comes after a criminal over there, they kill them. None of this fucking bullshit about being able to appeal a fucking murder conviction. None of that nonsense. Darren Chauvin and Amber Geiger would have had 2 bullets put in the back of their head if it was the Chinese government. So I just like to talk about that for a second. But anyway, China enforced a controversial one-child policy for almost 40 years. And now they're saying, no, guys, you'll need to have 3 kids because we've got to take over the world. So while those Americans over there are busy hating on their women because their women have turned into Instagram whores, and while the Americans are having all their divorces and everything, and while the Americans are losing their houses to corporations and conglomerates, which we own, we're going to have more children. So this way we can take all this cash, we go over to America, we're going to buy up all our houses, and we're going to send little Mei Ling right here, we're going to send her over to America, and she's going to be the next real estate property investor because she's going to have all of the money that we've accumulated when Americans were out buying video games and toys and shit that we made, and they were outsourcing their inflation to us. So now we're going to take our cash, we're going to go over to America, we're going to buy up every goddamn thing. So we need to have more kids. I mean, after all, the Americans aren't. The American government right now is trying to replace them with illegal aliens from Mexico and Guatemala. So after all, somebody's got to replace them, right? You know, those white Americans, they're not having children like they used to. I mean, after all, how could they afford to when they're financing all of those illegal aliens? Yeah. So that's basically what's happening. Those are a couple. See, when I read the news, it's totally different than when everybody else reads the news. Like when you watch these fake news channels like CNN and Fox and MSNBC, it's when I read the news, it's totally better than those fake news channels. Because I don't like to read the news like those. Those guys are fakes. Everything they talk about is fake. It's all bullshit. They don't do real investigative journalism. Those guys are trash. So I don't partake in their news. But yeah, that's basically a couple of things that's happening. So just remember, the next time you're at a playground, you see 3 Chinese kids, it's because the Chinese government decided to lift their ban on multiple children. All I can say is that, if you do manage to, find a woman who you don't hate and you do manage to have children, just remember that your child is, their asshole is basically a cash register in order to help pay back all of these trillions of dollars that we owe to foreign governments, especially China. So just remember that.